In our politics lead today, the White House is accelerating its extensive Supreme Court vetting process as lawmakers and outside groups begin jockeying to promote their favored candidates and attack the candidates they do not like. The Biden administration has also finalized its team that will guide President Biden's eventual nominee through her upcoming confirmation battle. There's also growing interest in another member of the court. As CNN's Pamela Brown reports, critics say the political activities of Ginny Thomas, the wife of Justice Clarence Thomas, raise questions about potential conflicts of interest for the court's longest tenured justice.
Ginny Thomas has been an outspoken, passionate conservative activist for decades.
The second Reagan revolution is growing.
Most recently, signing on to this open letter from conservatives to House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy denouncing the January 6th committee. 1 month after that letter, Justice Thomas was the lone public dissent in a case involving the January 6th committee. No other justices indicated they would have granted former President Trump's request to block the document handover from the National Archives to the committee. Thomas provided no explanation for his dissent.
There are surely substantive reasons consistent with his prior jurisprudence why Justice Thomas dissented from the court's decision to not help President Trump in that case. But for folks who are already skeptical of the court, for folks who already view the court as a deeply partisan and political institution, the fact that Justice Thomas is the sole public dissenter there, given what we know about Ginny Thomas's involvement, I think sets off some alarm bells.
Ginny Thomas's ties to former President Donald Trump and his aides go back years, including submitting a list of supposedly disloyal White House aides directly to Trump. Just before the January 6th riot, Ginny Thomas sympathized with the Stop the Steal rallygoers, writing, quote, "God bless each of you standing up or praying." She later made clear these were posted before the violence at the U.S. Capitol. Given the appearance of a conflict, critics say Justice Thomas should have recused himself in the case involving the January 6th committee because of his wife's activism. Her defenders say she has every right to lead her own life and see no reason why that should have a bearing on her husband if she's on a party in a case or financially invested. There is no indication she has a financial interest in cases before the High Court.
Clarence Thomas does not hold the views he holds because of any one person. Justices are going to have spouses that have the right to have opinions and be involved and engaged. And I trust Justice Thomas and other members on the Supreme Court bench to do what is right.
But the debate has continued because of Ginny Thomas's ties to another issue before the court this term. She sits on the advisory board of a conservative group, National Association Scholars. That organization submitted 2 legal briefs to the Supreme Court in favor of plaintiffs challenging affirmative action and admissions at 2 universities. Peter Wood is president of the organization and says Ginny Thomas played no role in the legal briefs.
As far as I know, she doesn't even know that we filed such briefs. I don't talk about those sorts of issues with her.
But Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington is calling for Justice Thomas's recusal.
In terms of the best practice, where his wife is closely affiliated with an organization that has taken a clear position, it seems clear to us that his impartiality could be questioned.
The federal law states, quote, "Any justice, judge, or magistrate judge of the United States shall disqualify himself in any proceeding in which his impartiality might reasonably be questioned," end quote. But it's up to the individual justice to decide if there is a conflict. For his part, Justice Thomas has recused himself 32 times in the last 28 years, according to Gabe Roth's group, Fix the Court, but never because of his wife's activism. In 2018, Ginny Thomas interviewed her husband for the Daily Caller, where he talked about his dedication to independence of thought.
As a judge, you don't get to be on one team or the other. You have to think independently in order to live up to the oath that you take.
Some experts think justices ought to explain their decisions to recuse or to not recuse more often in order for more transparency. Ginny Thomas's activism stands in contrast to the spouses of other justices. Chief Justice John Roberts' wife, Jane, retired from practicing law and resigned from a leadership role with an anti-abortion group. When late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg became a circuit court judge, her husband left his law firm.
And advocates of reform continue their calls for more transparent and stricter recusal rules. Ginny Thomas declined CNN's request for an interview and declined to comment. Jake?
All right.